Okay, welcome back. This is third installment of Sorare strategy, where I'm basically working off this fairly simple spreadsheet, this fairly simple template, and just trying to mine as much insight as I can out of it. And I think I've got a good one this week. Um, Please like and share and comment on those things. Again, just help me move up the YouTube algorithm, get some visibility for more people. And if you want to chat to me on Discord or check out my squad, U Beauty, so U_beauty on Sorare in Discord. This is the basic table we've been working off of. If I recommend they kind of build off each other, so you should go back and watch the first one and the second one. But just as a quick recap, this table basically shows us the average amount of points needed to be in a winning position. In other words, where you win a card in each of these divisions, Div 3 and 4 in each of these tournaments, and the average number of participants over the last several weeks, and the chance of winning. And of course, what we see is in Global All-Star, there's actually quite a low chance of winning. And in some of these other ones, you're in pretty good shape. You have a decent chance if you can play into Champion Europe, for example. First thing I did for this week was, these numbers won't move as much as we add more and more weeks. So it's kind of more interesting to look at the trend, and maybe I'll sort of chart it out at some point. But what I started to do here was actually do the winning, the percentage, the chance of winning for each week to see just sort of how the movement is going. So as you'd expect, I mean, the more and more people are adding on, so the chances of winning should be decreasing. And we see that here. Say Global All-Star Div 4, 2.2% chance, 2.1 to 1.9, steadily shrinking. Same as these as well. If you look at all of this, it all tends to go, it's all either flat or your chances are actually decreasing slightly at a fairly small rate, but still. That's to be expected. Nothing too insightful there, except when we look at Champion America here. So here we're actually seeing it rise from about 6.2, steady at 6.2, 6.1, then up to 6.4. And maybe that was an anomaly, but when we look at Div 3, also 7.6, 7.4, 3.4, and then up to 0.8. So, again, Champion America seems to be one in which it's a wise tournament to go into, and I'm not entirely sure why this is the only one that seems to be actually reversing the trend, and your odds are getting slightly better to win. The other kind of interesting one here is around super rares. So if we look at the points, bear with me here on the math, but basically in Div 3 you can play 2 super rares, which means you have 2 cards that'll get 20% bonus. So that 20% times 2 is 40%. And if you divide that over the 5 players, it's 40% on 2 players is the same as 8% on 5 players. So in other words, your entire score in Div 3 should be roughly 8% higher than, or the average score rather, should be 8% higher than the average score in Div 4 if we assume that anyone who's in Div 3 are playing super rare cards. And what we see in some of these where they're really tight, like Champion America, there's only 10 points separating these two. And what that tells me is that actually a lot of people in Div 3 aren't playing super rare cards and winning, especially when you look at how low this number is as well. So that's kind of encouraging for those of you that don't have super rare cards. You might be reluctant to play in Div 3 thinking you're going to get wiped out by these owners with super rare cards. It doesn't seem to be the case in some of these where there's some bigger discrepancies. Maybe that's what's happening. But certainly, again, in Champion America, you could potentially play 5 rare cards and have just as good of a shot of winning. So there's kind of the first bundle. But one of the things that I kept kind of landing on was this, just how low the chance of winning was for Global All-Star. And of course, we'd expect it because there's a lot of people playing in those, but it's so small compared to the others. And, initially I thought this was just because the sheer amount of people that are in it, the sheer amount of the versatility of the roster. You can play any card basically in your assortment into Global All-Star. And, but that doesn't necessarily explain Div 3 where you have a little more limitations on your cards, at least some degree. But and then the fact that people are going to go in that, they're going to try and compete and win a card. But if they don't and they fall back, they still can win, 0.02 Ethereum, 0.01, or is it 0.02, 0.01? I'm getting confused, but no, 0.02, 0.01. If they hit the 200 and the 250 threshold, so it makes it a very inviting one to play. So there's more people, lower chance of winning. I get that. But what I wanted to know was actually, maybe this number is not a true reflection, because maybe a large percentage of people are actually playing only to get the 200 or the 250. Perhaps they're actually putting their better lineups in other areas, and they're sort of punting the chance at winning a card here. And thus, it's not a true reflection of your chance of winning, because there might be just a giant bulge of people competing just to hit that 250 threshold. So I looked at that and I wondered, how can I prove that? And this is some fuzzy math coming up. So, you're welcome to comment with the flaws in it, but I think that there's it at least gives us an approximation. Obviously, there's no way how I could possibly know, or among 6,000 people, whose intention was to play in for only 250 points versus who was actually intending to put in a strong lineup to win some cards. But what I can see is I can look at it and say, okay, first off, what's the median? So the middle scorer. And you would think that if a lot of people are actually only aiming to get a score of 250 in Global All-Star, then the median should be pulled downward. It should be a bit lower than the others. So that was the first thing I looked at, and I have that here. And so as you can see here, the median here, while it is a bit on the low side, no doubt, it isn't the lowest by any stretch. And this Champion Asia here, if we just look at Div 4s and Champion America, it actually sits right alongside Champion America Challenger Europe. So it doesn't appear that, at least from a median point of view, that people are putting in kind of lesser squads, if you will, that would drag this lower. And I looked at, I didn't want to go too far. These could be anomalies, but I just looked at the previous week, and they're fairly consistent here. So this one's a little bit off, but I felt like this was enough to kind of show me that, okay, on average, the median is comparable to the rest of them. So the second approach I wanted to take is to actually find out how many people finished each week in the range of 175 points and 200. And the reason I chose that was it's a bit tight to the numbers of 200 and 250. And I felt that anyone that lands in that area was kind of hoping to potentially get to win some Ethereum. Obviously, that's kind of flawed, because somebody's going to have landed in that little range and maybe fluked out. Maybe they had a really weak lineup, but a few guys did really well. They didn't expect to win anything, and then they did. There'd be people that were actually thought they had a strong enough lineup to compete. Someone got injured or benched or whatever, and they kind of fell back into this area. But I sort of thought on both ends of the range, they kind of cancel each other out. And at least that in that area, you sort of have the teams that are not good enough to compete for cards, but still good enough to win Ethereum. And in theory, if a lot of people are playing to that, which is I've done for the last few weeks, I haven't put in my best lineup into Global All-Star. I've put in maybe my 4th, 5th best lineup, and actually purposely just tried to hit around the 250 mark. And so if there's a lot of people like me, we should see that there's a bit of a bulge. There's a higher percentage of the registrants in that range compared to the others. So let's have a look here. And by the way, these are just some of my notes that I was referring to, just to keep me on topic here. But So what I did was of those, the range of 175 to 275, this is the percentage. Now, again, in Global All-Star, that number is like quite high, like almost half of the people playing are in that range. But if you look at the other Div 4s, it's higher than those two, but it's, or these three, but it's comparable to Champion America. And certainly in Div 3, it's sort of all over the map. So what this kind of tells me that is that maybe there's a slight lag, or there's a slight percentage, maybe it's 7% or 5, between 5 and 10% of people are only playing for that middle number, but it's not a huge amount. This number isn't dramatically off of these numbers here. And again, if we look at the week prior, it's kind of same thing. So this overall like low chance of winning, again, maybe 10% is being influenced by these sort of lower achievers, if you will, ethereum achievers, let's call them. But not so much that if we actually normalize this number, if we brought this number down 10 percentage points, it's not like this would shoot into the 6% or 5% range. It would only nudge it a little bit. So quite frankly, this division continues to be the hardest one to win and the most competitive, at least in terms of your odds of winning. And and the amount of points needed maybe are not the most, but they're at least they're on the high side. So that kind of gives me a sense of, okay, this number is not necessarily phony, or it's not like artificially deflated. I guess it's actually pretty indicative. And so my strategy of targeting some of these other tournaments with my best lineups is still a sound one. But while since I'd already done this, I started to kind of dig into it a little bit further and figure out like, hey, what else can I figure out here, and what else can I learn from? And one of the things is, this I found interesting. Again, Champion America continues to really interest me. There's not a lot separating them, Div 3 and Div 4, and I started the video kind of talking about this as well, in terms of doesn't seem that there's a lot of SRs being played in Div 3, given how tight this is. But if you look at the median score as well, again, it's really close, and so shows me that even that sort of middling player, the person that maybe isn't expecting to win cards, it's still such a competitive. You can still compete, or you can still be in reasonably good competition with the lineup that you have. The Champion Europe here, again on the Div 3, has a huge median. I don't know why. I guess I do. Certainly Champion Europe starts to move into, like in Div 3, starts to move into elite company. Div 3, of course, is more higher than Div 4, and at least moving towards Div 2. And of course, Champion Europe is the best clubs in the world. And so it would stand to reason that people have some pretty strong players there. And of course, the clubs are strong enough. They're putting up some pretty huge results. They're playing in big tournaments like Champions League and things like that. So, and a lot of those clubs are, top in their division as well. So they're rolling over teams and things like that. So it is interesting that, yes, the winning score is quite high. You need 400 points to win Div 3 Champion Europe. It's the highest here. But even the median, even to be the middle of the road in this, you need 300 points, which is almost as much as what you need to win in Champion America or Champion Asia Div 4. So this is by far the most competitive. This is where you must have a really, really strong lineup. And even though the win percentage is quite high, it's pretty nice that you have 7.4% chance of winning because there's only 300 people playing. But you still need to be realistic about, that's not it, 336 people playing. But you still need to be realistic about who you're up against and really how strong your team is. And then the other one is just, again, going back to the well here with Champion America and just seeing just how much of an opportunity it is right now. If we consider people in this, if you're scoring between 175 and 275, you're not really competing for cards. You're getting close to this, but not really. So 50% of the participants are kind of your run-of-the-mill sort of middling teams. And of course, I didn't even calculate how many are below 175 points. But that tells you that really there's only a small percentage of these participants that are really putting up points that can win cards. And so if you have a good lineup for Champion America, you absolutely need to play it. I would compete in both if you can. In fact, I would be looking. I would imagine a lot of people are buying MLS related cards now, but getting that soon. That's what I'm trying to do: build strong lineup and compete in both, because the winning points are low. Even the median, like it just shows all the way down. It's low, and there's a lot of these kind of middling teams that aren't really going to affect you. They're not going to bother you and take your spot away. So time and time again, to me, so much of my energy over these next few weeks, especially as we hit this kind of strange period where a lot of leagues are shutting down. We have global tournaments coming, or like the Euro coming up and things like that. This is kind of going to represent some opportunity and frankly some stability. So anyways, I'll stop there. I hope that made sense. Hope you followed. Leave some comments if you like, or reach out to me, and please hit the like button. But yeah, we'll talk soon, and I'll dig deeper. Take care. Bye.